Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Navellier Market Buzz, episode 6. I'm Crystal Navellier, and I'm joined again this week with my father, Louis Navellier. This week was quite the roller coaster.
Yeah, it started off on a kind of a weak note because we had a poor manufacturing report from ISM, discouraging. And then, of course, Iran retaliated against Israel. Israel, of course, successfully shot down all those missiles. But we ended the week with upbeat economic news. Strong ISM service report, strongest I've seen in over 18 months. And then we had a better than expected payroll report. But the big impact on the financial markets was surging Treasury bond yields. And the yield curve is now quite steep.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about why they're rising?
Sure. Well, first of all, there's tremendous mortgage demand because before last week, long-term bond yields fell for 8 consecutive weeks. And so everybody's out refinancing their mortgage, okay, for lack of a better word. So that's one thing, but we're also hypersensitive to any positive economic news. And we're going to have inflation reports later this week, and I think they'll be okay. But clearly, oil prices shot up over 10%, biggest increase this year because of the conflict in the Middle East. So what this is all means is that there's a fear that between economic growth and inflation rate igniting, that it's putting upward pressure on bond yields. But the short end of the what we call the Treasury curve is still well behaved. This is the part that the Fed influences, and everybody knows there's another rate cut coming 2 days after the election.
Now, what are your expectations for GDP growth?
Well, you're showing the Atlanta Fed flash estimate. It's not that high right now, but I expect an upward revision on Monday. I'm sure we'll get back to 3%. We're going to have a trade report this week, and it's going to show our trade deficit, and that has an incredible impact on GDP growth, largely because the we export a lot of energy products. We're a lot of refined product. We export. We export crude oil. And we do export LNG, and of course, that's one of the fights we're having this election because the Biden administration tried to stop LNG expansion. They got overridden by the courts, but they are still actively appealing that to the Supreme Court. And this is one of the reasons the election is so confusing because no matter what Kamala is saying, the Biden administration is doing the opposite. And so that's Kamala's problem, to be honest with you. If and when we resume our LNG exports and expand them, it's really going to help GDP growth immensely.
You mentioned that crude oil prices had the biggest weekly increase this year.
Yeah, that's right. That's because of all the tension between Israel and Iran. And of course, Iran did launch missiles into Israel. And just like what happened in April, Israel shot them all down. But Israel is going to retaliate. That's very clear. The Biden administration was warning Israel not to attack the nuclear facilities. And later last week, they warned them not to attack the oil facilities. I don't think Israel's going to attack the oil facilities anyway. If anything, they'll attack the Iranian Republican Guard targets. And they still might attack the nuclear facility targets, no matter the warning from the Biden administration, because uh, they don't want Iran to develop nuclear weapons, and they're getting closer and closer. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. The supreme leader in Iran is apparently in a bunker. They might try to take him out, just like they took out the leader of Hamas and Hezbollah. And we'll see what happens. It's might as well come to an end. It's Iran was always attacking Israel through proxies. Two of their proxies have been virtually eliminated, and now Iran and Israel fighting direct. So this is going to get very interesting, and I expect Israel to be very successful in their strike, of course.
I'd love to know what your predictions are for the September CPI and PPI reports.
I expect them to be favorable, largely because energy prices were pretty contained until late September when the Middle East drama picked up. But we are having some demand push inflation if economic growth reaccelerates. Right now, what's keeping inflation low is a weak China, a weak Europe, a lackluster U.S. manufacturing activity. Right now, inflation's in check, but we might have some demand push inflation. So September may be the last month where we have truly, truly wonderful CPI and PPI reports.
Now, I think we have to talk about your favorite stock, Nvidia's founder, said that the demand for the Blackwell chip was insane.
That's correct. He said that on CNBC, and obviously that helped lift the entire tech sector and especially Nvidia. Now, what's interesting is the fourth quarter, which will be announced in January, will have the best Blackwell chip sales, but hopefully some are going to creep in this current report that they'll announce. Now, Nvidia doesn't announce till late, so we're talking about the third week of November. So we still have a ways to wait.
What are your expectations for bank earning announcements this week?
They should be excellent because the yield curve favors banks. So when you get a normal yield curve and short-term rates fall, it fuels their profits. The only glitch is consumer defaults. And the banks might have to increase their default reserves based on how consumers are behaving. Now, the Philly Fed keeps saying that 30, 60, 90-day defaults or delinquencies have been rising. So we have to keep an eye on that. And, this is a part of the economy that's still struggling. So it's mostly people your age, under 30, that accumulate credit card debt and can't make ends meet.
Well, I would love to conclude this week by asking you, what are your favorite stock picks?
Well, I think the gold stocks are probably your best near-term buys. When bond yields were surging, they were actually settling back down. So that's a stock like AGI, AEM, those are the ticker symbols. IDR is another one. So those are three of my favorite gold-related stocks. There's a copper stock we have that will have stunning sales and earnings, BVN. Copper prices are hypersensitive to the economy. Copper goes into everything, our vehicles, our homes, and so as economic activity picks up, copper demand picks up. But BVN's looking pretty good here, and we do expect economic activity to pick up because of all this stimulus China's putting in their economy. Obviously, our economy seems to be reaccelerating here based on the ISM service report, and we'll get an upbeat GDP report from the Atlanta Fed. So these are all phenomenal buys near term.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for answering all my questions. And thank you to you all again for liking and subscribing. Once again, if you do have any questions that you want us to answer next week, please leave them in the comments below. But until then, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.